On Osrc News at 7, Governor Aiyedatiwa reiterates administration's stance for fiscal prudence and accountability. Ondo Assembly advocates proper nutritional practices to tackle health challenges. Lagos building collapse claims one life. And from the foreign scene, South Sudan drags vice president to court for treason or other crimes. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on the news at 7 on OSRC television. My name is Oyewumi Ayinigbara. Fiscal prudence, transparency, and accountability in the management of public resources remain priority of the present administration in Ondo State. Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, while receiving the delegation of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria (ICAN) in Akure, described the state's leap in ICAN's accountability index from 20th position in 2022 to 8th position in 2023, a testament to the deliberate reforms and prudent financial practices of his government. The governor assured that his administration will sustain the progress by strengthening public financial management, improving revenue generation, and ensuring judicious use of state resources. Government House correspondent Wahab Bankole reports that Governor Aiyedatiwa was honored as Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, FCA.
The Koko Conference Hall of the Governor's Office in Akure was spotlighted as members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria visited Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa in a bid to further drive the state's development. President of the body, Haruna Yahaya, commended Governor Aiyedatiwa for his remarkable improvement in fiscal discipline and transparency as the state ranks 8th in ICAN's National Accountability Index for 2023, a leap from his 20th position in 2022. He applauded the governor's focus on infrastructure renewal, economic diversification, healthcare, human capital development, and support for traditional rulers, noting that the policies align with the Institute's motto of accuracy and integrity.
The youth agenda has made significant progress in improving the lives of Ondo residents. We thank you for doing that, and we believe that the states and the residents will key into your administration. Indeed, the results speak for itself, and most importantly, it has shown in our accountability index, ICAN AI, where we did assessment of all the state governments. For 2023, Ondo State has rose by 12 places from the 20th position in 2022 to 8th position.
Governor Aiyedatiwa, who restated his dedication to fiscal prudence, transparency, and accountability in the management of public resources, assured that no stone will be left unturned to promote overall growth and development of the state. The governor, who thanked the professional body for honoring him as Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, recalled his early ambition to become an accountant before veering into teaching and later politics.
If you want to run an organization that is efficient, profitable, in terms of having wider access to funds and management of funds, you need a counterpart. And that is why, for us in Ondo State, especially when you want to be as transparent as you can be, you want to give account of all that you are doing. The account department is very, very important. So your profession is indispensable. Public funds will be managed properly for the betterment of the people. It is not to be wasted, and it is rather to be prudently managed.
Aiyedatiwa promised to address issues raised by ICAN, including the documentation of land earlier allocated to the body and the bifurcation of the State Directorate of Finance from research and development. He pledged the state support for ICANN's forthcoming 55th Annual Accountants Conference and its 60th anniversary activities, emphasizing the critical role of accountants in driving efficiency, transparency, and sustainable development. Wahab Bankole, OSRC News.
Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa has ordered investigation into the recent recruitment of teachers into primary and secondary schools in the state following allegations that the process was compromised. Aiyedatiwa said government had taken action against some staff members of the State Universal Basic Education Board (SUBEB) that defrauded some applicants. Some newly recruited teachers had protested their exclusion from the data capturing process by the state government. Reacting to the protest, Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Ebenezer Adeniyo, admitted that the protesters were allegedly scammed with fake appointment letters by some insiders in SUBEB. Adeniyo said the Governor had directed the management of SUBEB to invite the victims of the fraud for a meeting, while a committee has been constituted to further look into the matter. The Federal Ministry of Education has called on Nigerians to ensure schools remain a safe environment where children can learn and teachers can teach without fear. The ministry made the call on the occasion of the International Day to Protect Education from Attack. Permanent Secretary Abel Enito emphasized that insecurity in schools is unacceptable, saying every child deserves peace and teachers must work without fear. He stressed that protecting schools is vital to safeguarding the future of the nation's learners. He underscored the need for teacher training, community involvement, and strong partnership to ensure that schools remain secure spaces for education. You're still watching Osrc News at 7, and after the break, Lagos building collapse claims 1 life. Please do rejoin us for this and more. Thank you very much for rejoining us. You can watch us live on our website www.osrc.ng or follow us on Facebook at Osrc TV, and on YouTube you can subscribe to our channel Osrc TV Undo. Nigeria has in recent years placed priority on food and nutritional policies amid rising concerns about malnutrition, food insecurity, and health outcomes. Hence the visit of the Ondo State House of Assembly Committee on Food and Nutrition to Hospitals Management Board towards ensuring that such policies are translated into action. House of Assembly correspondent Omoshiliola Adesoye Ajayi now reports.
The Nigeria's national policy on food and nutrition was first adopted in 2001 through a multi-sectoral framework aiming to reduce malnutrition, especially among children, pregnant and lactating mothers, through improved security, dietary practices, access to safe water and sanitation, as well as health services. And in a bid to review and update the policy, the federal government's revised policy serves as a 10-year blueprint to guide interventions across sectors such as agriculture, health, education, and social welfare. Despite the policy framework, Nigeria still faces serious challenges such as rising food prices, inflation, insecurity in food-producing areas, among other factors. That was the reason Ondo State House of Assembly Committee on Food and Nutrition visited Hospital Management Board, one of the delivery agencies charged with the administration of public hospitals. Welcoming the parliamentarians, Chairman of the board, Dr. Olusegun Ategbole, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Uju Adiji, appreciated the committee's proactive engagement and outlined the current efforts of the board to incorporate nutrition into clinical services.
In terms of that portion, we still have to go back again and see what we can do. We need to call the stakeholders, especially the CMD and the DICC, what we do. If at all we cannot be feeding the whole patient, we must have a demonstration clinic that when they come for the agenda, we demonstrate. Right now, when I was medical student told this, we had to cook. He said we had oil, everything, cooking, so they will see it and make sure that all of us are well secure.
He noted that some hospitals under the board have begun implementing nutrition-sensitive programs, but highlighted challenges such as inadequate funding, staffing gaps, and lack of specialized nutrition equipment hindering the progress of the policy. Chairman of the committee, Nelson Akishuroju, emphasized the critical role of nutrition in public health and reiterated the commitment of the Assembly in ensuring that health institutions in the state integrate proper nutrition practices into patients' care and recovery.
As we here, the committee in National Assembly, we seek for a robust contribution with your ministry, and our committee aims is to drive impactful change in the state. We are committed to ensure adequate budgetary personnel for the nutrition and food security in the upcoming budget.
Other members of the committee assured the board of their commitment to advocating increased budgetary allocation and policy frameworks that will make nutrition a key component of healthcare planning and delivery. Omoshiliola Adesoye Ajayi, Osrc News.
The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) has intercepted counterfeit malaria drugs worth over 1 billion naira in Lagos. The agency said it seized 277 cartons of unregistered malaria drugs in a warehouse around Oshodi area. NAFDAC said the fake medicine, which were disguised in cartons, were illegally imported from China and falsely declared as spare parts. Director General of NAFDAC, Mojisola Adeyeye, explained that the seizure formed part of a nationwide enforcement campaign to ensure that only safe and quality medicines are available to Nigerians. Professor Adeyeye reaffirmed the agency's resolve to rid the country of fake and substandard medicines. A fire outbreak at the Shaki garage in the Ibadan North local government area of Oyo State has destroyed goods and property worth millions of naira. The incident affected 4 out of the 11 shops located within the garage complex. The fire resulted in the loss of substantial goods and property, but no casualty was recorded. Confirming the incident, Special Advisor to the Governor on Fire Reform, Maruf Akinwande, said preliminary investigations showed that the blaze was caused by unattended members, which subsequently ignited combustible materials. 4 shops were severely affected, yet Akinwande stressed that property worth millions of naira was saved due to the timely intervention of the fire service. Also, 1 person has been confirmed dead following the collapse of the 3-story building at Alagomeji, Lagos State. The National Emergency Management Agency said the body of a male victim was recovered from the rubble during ongoing search and rescue operations. It said 4 people were rescued alive from the structure, which caved in after a downpour. Search and rescue operations is still ongoing at the collapse scene. The collapse has once again raised concerns about the integrity of buildings under construction in Lagos, where several such incidents have claimed lives in recent years, despite repeated government warnings and enforcement drives. The federal government has disclosed plans to transform the nation's 417 grazing reserves into mini-towns with stable power supply and other facilities. This was revealed by Minister of Livestock Development Idi Maya at a Memorandum of Understanding signing with Rural Electrification Agency to provide solar power grids to the reserves upon their rehabilitation and resettlement. Maya lamented that the grazing reserves have been abandoned for many years with no meaningful efforts to rehabilitate them in order to concentrate development of the livestock sector. Corroborating Executive Secretary of the Electrification Agency, Abba Liu, explained that the livestock sector is one with the kind of conditions that demand the agency's deployment of infrastructure to boost productivity and sustain the community with renewable energy. He noted that a grazing reserve with a primary healthcare, secondary school, and other incentives will thrive with the planned electrification. Members of the Nigerian community in the United Kingdom have staged a peaceful rally near the parliament to protest what they described increased miscarriages of justice and systemic judicial corruption in Nigeria. The demonstrators, comprising men and women of Nigerian descent, carried placards which depict an end to judicial corruption in Nigeria. Organizers of the rally said the action was prompted by mounting allegations of corruption within Nigeria's judicial and financial systems, especially in high-profile political and commercial disputes where judges were accused of delivering questionable verdicts influenced by bribery. Speaking at the rally, the group's leader, Darlington Okwebolo, said the time had come for the international community to pay attention to the integrity crisis within Nigeria's judiciary. The protesters vowed to sustain pressure through international advocacy until the Nigerian government takes decisive steps to restore credibility, transparency, and fairness in its judicial system. And now to the foreign scene, South Sudan's first Vice President Riek Machar has been charged with murder, treason, and crimes against humanity in a move that some fear could reignite the country's civil war. Justice Minister Joseph Akej said the charges against Machar relate to an attack in March by a military allegedly linked to the vice president, which killed 250 soldiers and a general. Machar's spokesperson has condemned the move as a political witch hunt. The road leading to Machar's house in the capital, Juba, have been blocked by tanks and soldiers. Machar has been under house arrest since March, with the UN, African Union, and neighboring countries all calling for calm. Armed groups in Mali have begun to cut off the capital by targeting key transport routes linking the city to eastern and other regions. The incident prompted the military junta to call an emergency defense meeting. Olanlikon Ajewole tells us more.
It was headed towards Bamako, the bus service from Kai. Families on board heading home, but excitement turned to fear when two Al-Qaeda fighters blocked the road. The passengers were spared, but the blaze is a message here. It is not the government, but Al-Qaeda in charge. This group is now blocking key arteries linking the capital to the south and east. At Bamako's bus station, passengers went, anxious, uncertain, trapped in what feels like a siege without walls.
We arrived here around 2 in the morning. We didn't face any real problems on the road, though at times some sections were blocked for checks. I couldn't tell by whom. Now we want to leave, but the bus company tells us it's impossible.
Mali's army first dismissed the blockade, blaming the rains for delays. Then came airstrikes, dozens of Al-Qaeda fighters killed near Kai. Junta leader Altimi Goita has called an emergency defense meeting. Officials insist they are in control, but images on social media show fuel tankers in flames, armed men manning checkpoints, a proof of how fragile Mali roads have become.
We used to have 4 to 5 international departures every week. Now with this crisis, all those trips have stopped. It's hitting the economy hard.
Landlocked Mali relies on neighbors for fuel and food, but the Al-Qaeda affiliate is disrupting these vital routes, leaving communities cut off. With a state absence, Reporters Without Borders is appealing for the protection of the 500 community radio stations across the Sahel. Broadcasting in local languages, they share news and warnings for the most vulnerable communities, the only link to the outside world.
Our goal is to denounce what's happening. It's to tell the armed groups that the buses and trucks that you're burning belong to individuals, not the state. If you think you're going to make problems for the state, you're creating suffering for the individuals, your brothers, Muslims like you. This is our role, to state the facts. It brings cohesion and understanding. Because the armed group's members are listening to the radio. They too are part of this community. They know what is happening, what's being said. They know. They listen to us and they know.
Families cut off, roads severed, voices on the radio carrying what the state no longer can. Al-Qaeda is slowly choking the capital, leaving communities stranded, waiting to go home. Olalikun Ajewole, OSRC News.
A sample obtained by NASA's Perseverance rover of reddish rock formed billions of years ago from sediment on the bottom of a lake contains potential signs of ancient microbial life on Mars. Peter Musa tells us more.
NASA says the reddish rock from Mars its Perseverance rover found has potential signs of ancient microbial life on the red planet. That's the conclusion of a year-long study of the rock formed billions of years ago from sediment on the bottom of a lake. While NASA says the minerals it contained could suggest life, scientists says the minerals spotted in the sample could also form without biology. Still, acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy says the finding, while provisional, could be a breakthrough.
They've come back and they said, listen, we can't find another explanation. So this very well could be the clearest sign of life that we've ever found on Mars, which is incredibly exciting.
Mars has not always been the inhospitable place it is today, with liquid water on its surface in the distant past. Since 2021, the Perseverance rover has explored Jezero Tar, a formed lake basin in the northern hemisphere of Mars. It has surveyed sediment and delta deposits there for potential signs of life. The rover collected the so-called Sapphire Canyon sample in July 2024. It's a fine-grained rusty red rock that shows leopard spot patterns and tiny dark marks. A study of the sample in the journal Nature concluded the marks were possibly made by microbes when the area was believed to be a watery environment between 3.2 to 3.8 billion years ago. Planetary scientist Joel Erowitz of Stellenbosch University was co-author of the study.
Textural features told us that something really interesting had happened in these rocks. Some set of chemical reactions occurred at the time they were being deposited. And so we really wanted to understand what those reactions might have been.
Using the rover's Sherlock instrument, a chemical detector, Erowitz said he found evidence that points to the organic matter.
What you can see here is a set of spectra that are called Raman spectra. And there's a lot of information on these graphs, but the key thing to take note of is the fact that what we see in these spectra is something called a G-band, and that's pointed out on the image. The G-band for us is a smoking gun indicator for the presence of organic matter in this mud. And we see that G-band in the Chayava Falls target, and we actually see it in a couple of the other locations that we interrogated around the Bright Angel Formation. And this tells us that we had a rusty red mud that was deposited in the presence of organic matter.
Two minerals were likely formed as a result of chemical reaction when the mud reacts with organic matter in it. They are vulvanite, a mineral bearing iron and phosphorus, and greigite, a mineral bearing iron and sulfur. US President Donald Trump's current budget proposal would cancel NASA's existing Mars sample return mission. Acting NASA's administration, Sean Duffy said NASA is exploring other ways to retrieve sample and send a gear to Mars for more analysis. Peter Musa, OSRC News.
With our reports, we conclude the news tonight, but before we go, a quick look at the top stories. We told you that Governor Loki Aiyedatiwa has restated on those state stands of transparency and accountability in managing public resources. He gave the stand while receiving the delegation of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria in Akure. The Ondo State House of Assembly has advised health institutions in the state to ensure the integration of proper nutrition to aid patients' recovery and as well tackle diseases. We also told you that one occupant of a story building has been confirmed dead following its collapse in Alagomeji in Yaba area of Lagos. And from the foreign scene, South Sudan's first Vice President Riek Machar has been dragged to court on allegations of murder, treason and crimes against humanity. And that's the news tonight. Thank you very much for your time. Good evening.